I'm going to type in real quick what the order is going to be.
Can you make me 4, Gary, since I'm already on the cheat sheet?
Yes, and there's the order. So that means Ember, you're up first to put your stuff in.
If you switch Ember and Ishtar, that would help Ember too, I think.
I still need to update mine
Well, no,
since
never mind then. Never mind then.
since I have new numbers and different relevant story awards since this is a different series. So I'll just erase what's on player 1 previously.
Yep. And relevant story awards for this adventure are going to be the Urmlaspyr series. So anything you got from Urm 1 through Urm 4. So, and I do apologize that this is going to be a little bit more awkward than a normal game, as for whatever reason, all of the like couple hours that I spent last night putting everything into Roll20, just decided it didn't want to work for today. So, you guys are all in the guild hall. Many of you have spent quite a bit of time going to and fro Urmlaspyr, helping out Ambassador Thantarum. Has anyone in the group not been to Urmlaspyr? So I'm taking that as a no. Um, so you guys have all gone back and forth, done things with. Go into character when you guys get a chance to as well. Um, Gone back and forth to the city of Shadow, familiar with sort of the inner city politics and things that are going on in Urmlaspyr. And it has been from Urmlaspyr 4. There was a meeting that was going on. There was a discussion with the elves and the Eladrin of the myths to help Deskir Thantarum in figuring out what exactly is going on with the portals, what's going on with kind of how his family is being hunted and that sort of thing in the city. And at the end of that adventure, they told you that they will be meeting with people of the city to try to get to the bottom of everything and solve this problem and try to see exactly who is causing the problems, kind of lift up the mask to see who is causing all the issues and who's been hunting down the Thantarum family line. So many of you guys are expecting this courier when he comes. A man walks up the steps, someone that you recognize as one of the servants in the employ of Deskir Thantarum, and he's wearing the kind of crisp and clean uniform of a steward of Cormyr with the roaring purple dragon across the chest. He looks around and after a brief moment of glancing over the relatively empty guild hall, sees a couple of people, a couple of faces that he recognizes, and walks forward. This is also one of the only, actually, this is the only time you've seen him enter the guild hall without something in his hands, without a note or something like that. He seems to be walking along with purpose, but is not going to be reciting something to you rather than talking to you more normally. So as he walks in, he calls across to. I'm trying to think. Has anyone done all four of them? I think Ophelia has.
I have 2.
Yeah, I have as well.
Okay, so it calls for the people that have done all four of them. You know, calls them by name. Sorelka, Ophelia, and the third one was
Ecuador.
so Ekerdar. So it calls to the three of them by name and waves and says, "It is time. The ambassador once again calls for aid, and I need to have some people who are." Kind of looks around for a second and says, "Willing to go into the shadow. Please, if you would," and kind of gestures for you to follow him downstairs into one of the meeting rooms. You guys all head downstairs, following him into the meeting room, and after you guys are sort of set in the room, he doesn't ward the room or anything, but turns to you and says, "The meeting is finally going down. We've been speaking with, or I should say, my master has been speaking with, the lords of the Shadowfell, the masters of the city that help maintain peace in a city that is one half in the mortal world and one half in the Shadowfell. They have scheduled a meeting for later today, and it is going to take place within the Forbidden Zone, on the other side of the wall, inside of the Shadowfell. Each of you have served Cormyr and have served my master Deskir quite well, above and beyond the call of duty in some cases. My master is looking for protection. It is supposedly going to be a meeting with many, many guards, with many people there to protect this, to make sure that nothing occurs. But one thing that we've learned, the further that my master digs into this plot, the further that we go down this rabbit hole, the more danger there is, the more certainty there is of assault. As such, he's looking for extra guards and people to secure the meeting area and be there come what may.
We understand.
So,
I feel your nods to that.
so he nods and says, "I can give you not a lot of information, but information I can give you should be relatively inclusive." He says, "The plan is to start at the Cormyrean embassy, where we will be teleporting to today, and then walk across the city of Urmlaspyr into the Forbidden Zone. There is a central sort of city hall for the creatures that are in the Shadowsfell. We will be having the meeting there. It is a veritable fortress, very difficult to assault, and we're hoping that is going to cause any sorts of assaults on this to use ulterior means, maybe sending in small strike forces rather than dealing with the larger creatures and things that we've encountered in the past." Sorry, I had to cough. He says, and he kind of rolls out a little map of the city and shows you on the map where they're going to be going, where all the pieces are, shows you the route going through the city and entering the Forbidden Zone, and says, "There will be a lot of extra people on guard. Aliana, as some of you have met, she is going to be accompanying them for the meeting with the Shades. The Shades themselves have significant numbers and forces of their own that are going to be protecting the meeting. The more that we've been talking with them, the more that we've realized that the dark coming, the whatever it is that's happening here, the darker than normal dark shadows. We don't have an exact idea of what this is, but something that is dark and hidden even within the Shadowfell, even in an area that is used to such creatures. There's something that is further dark than the Shadowfell that is hiding within it, and has been preying upon the people on the other side of the wall, the people that reside within the Forbidden Zone themselves. The Shades seem to be as as willing to go very far to figure out what is going on as my master is, as their people have been suffering similar casualties as the people in the city of Urmlaspyr itself. Right now, the city is starting to feel the suffering of so much be happening in the city itself, as merchants are starting to be less willing to go out of their way to come and deal in the city itself. We're hoping that we can get to the bottom of this so that not only Deskir and his family will be safe, but the city will be prosperous once again." So, do you have any questions for the servant?
I do. So they've linked this darkness to what's killing off the Thantarum family line?
He nods his head. "Yes. We've been able to see that some of these creatures react very poorly to the artifact that is in the care of Iona."
Uh, where did that artifact originate?
He shakes his head and says, "That would be something that you would have to ask the ambassador. My only understanding is that it is something that has been within the Thantarum line for many generations."
And what would be the? Have they established a motive for this creature or creatures to destroy the Thantarum family line? Is it just solely because they're somehow related to this artifact?
They have not yet. They're hoping that with the information that Deskir has gathered on the mortal world side, if they can share the information and the knowledge that they know with the people in the Shadowfell and the Shades, that they can come together and try to figure out exactly what is causing all of these problems.
Interesting. All right. No, nothing else leaps to mind for me.
Will Deskir be there at the meeting?
Yes, you are going to be hired to protect him personally. While it is preferred that everyone survive this meeting and that you protect everyone, We are hiring you specifically to protect Deskir and his daughter. Any other questions?
Akradar decides to come forward at this point and ask him. Um, the last few times we've been facing rather, shall we say, sneaky opponents. Do we have anything that could protect us from that? Because last time the ambassador's daughter almost got killed, if not for a quick, swift action, and even then it was quite difficult.
So he nods his head and says, "Yes, we've been going back and forth. I think the fact that this creature or creatures or enemy, whatever it is, this enemy is able to hide even in shadows deeper than what is found in the Shadowfell. They are using their obscurement as their primary weapon against us. That is what at least some of this meeting is about: is trying to remove that protection, that darkness that is covering our enemy and shrouding them from our sight. That is the goal of this meeting, is to try to pull that back. But as far as going out in force and having people that you trust with you, we have not come up with a better solution."
Hmm, I see. Also, how many shall we say, and forgive for such a rude statement, but how many clear targets are we talking about in this reunion? Maybe five, eight people that should be the clearest ones to guard, or more?
So he nods his head and says, "You are going to be hired to protect my master and his daughter. Everything else is secondary. But there will be two representatives of the Shadow Council that are there, as well as Aliana Teshur, who some of you have met, the representative from the myth. If you can protect more than just the ambassador and his daughter, Aliana and the two shades would also be preferable if you could protect them as well. There will be many, many guards on each side. The ambassador has called for aid from Cormyr, and they have sent a contingent of knights. They will be anywhere between 30 and 50, although I have not met with the knights myself. The ambassador from the myth has also brought several of her guards as well, 15 or 20 of themselves, and the Shadowfell princes, or the Shade princes, have a standing army and will have several dozen at least guards there. So basically, he describes a scene where each important person has their own entourage that they're bringing along. All told, without the group being there, there's going to be about 100 or so guards and other people that are protecting this meeting.
I see.
One, did anyone here do the story, The Weeping? Any of the characters that are here?
I don't think so, not from memory.
I think Ishtar did.
Ishtar has, yes.
Ishtar, are you the only one from that group, or is there anyone else that's here that did that?
I think I'm the only one.
Okay.
And the only other one that I don't remember is Akradar, if he was there or not. So,
I don't think he was.
yeah, then it's just me.
Okay. So, if you guys have no more questions, he will stand up and say, please get your weapons, get anything that you need, supplies, and keep your wits about you. We're heading to the embassy directly, and then we'll be heading shortly from there over to the Shadows Fell. And then he will nod and leave out of the room, assuming that you guys follow him.
I'm going to recommend to all of you that you purchase a grave spawn or a crypt spawn potion. At least one.
I'll take that offer. How much would it cost?
They're
It's been a
What
while.
potion?
Grave spawn or crypt spawn.
Is that for the disease or for the both or?
It's for what if. I mean, I don't know that it's going to help. I'm just saying
That's fair.
it's got necrotic component.
I already have necrotic resist. So.
Well, great. If you've already got necrotic, then skip it.
It's like, are we going to be diseased at any of the disease part?
I have no idea. I have no reason to suspect
my
we will.
endurance is pretty good. Yeah. Okay.
So if you guys purchase extra supplies or anything like that, go ahead and do so. You don't really need to let me know, but obviously honor system. Say cool. I would have purchased this or this. Don't purchase something after you see what the monster's abilities are. That sort of stuff. I don't know what CMWs are, but sounds fun. Cure moderate wounds. Gotcha. So, you guys follow him into the Shadowfell. When you teleport into the parade grounds outside of the embassy itself, you can see that there's a lot of activity in the inner city as well, or in the inner courtyard as well. There is an entire contingent of knights, like he said, all standing there, gleaming in either plate or scale armor. Several of them are have weapons, swords. Several have minor magical equipment, and you can tell there's sort of an aura of magic around some of the groups of knights. You can see every group of the knights are broken into groups of 5, and one out of every 5 is holding a lantern on the end of a pole that's holding a sunrod, generating bright light for 10 squares in every direction. And they're standing in such a way that they overlap. And you can see that they're sort of organizing and getting ready to form up to go through the city. And the servant leads you through the middle of the contingent of knights and into the inner courtyard.
Impressive.
So, heading into the inner courtyard, you can see Iona is sort of sitting off to one side, looking kind of bored and fiddling with a big thing of cloth that is pretty obviously the scroll container with something wrapped around it over top of it. And she's just sort of like messing with the straps and stuff on the wrapping that is covering the scroll case. Deskier is standing in the middle talking to a very withered looking old knight, giving him instructions on where they're going, kind of going over last minute preparations on their route and that sort of stuff. And the two Empyreans are sort of looming over top of everyone, looking out in every direction in their sort of battle forms, where they're significantly larger than normal. As soon as you guys walk into the courtyard, Deskier taps his hand on the knight's armor and then says, "I think we will be good. I have some other details to attend to." Smiles to him. The knight kind of gives you all a sour look and then turns away from you all. And Deskier walks up and smiles broadly and says, thank you for answering the call. I was a little bit afraid that people might not be able to come. You might have other missions or other things that needed doing. It is good to see so many familiar faces. I assume that kind of gestures for the servant, whose name the DM has forgotten, and says, I assume that my man has told you the situation. Do you have anything else that you would need to be able to help you make sure that we can all make it back from our trip to the Forbidden Zone?
Kieran asked, well, I think we're all set, but how are you doing? You came pretty close to death's door last time we met. How are your wounds?
So he says, I am doing quite well. So in game times, it's been about 2 weeks since that incident. He says, I was in a bad place for several days until I was able to eat, rest, get everything back situated, but now I'm mostly just, I'm nervous. I'm all jitters. Every time I dig a little bit deeper into what's going on, things happen. People die. People get attacked. I want to have everything that I can, protecting what's the meeting, protecting us, and I want to keep everything that is important to me close at hand. And he sort of looks over towards his daughter, who's pointedly ignoring him, fiddling with the straps.
Well, Deskier, goes without saying, you got guts. I know. I've seen them. I felt them.
Badoonch.
Nice one.
So he says, "Is there anything that my servant was not able to inform you of? Any other questions that you have?" I'm sure he showed you the route and kind of gestures over towards a table that's set up in the courtyard that has the map of the city on it that shows the route that the servant did explain to you where you're going.
On this route, where are we not going to have tons and tons of guards?
He says the knights will be escorting us the entire way.
Hmm. And these are trusted men?
He nods his head.
What are you expecting to attack us?
He kind of goes over and puts his hands on the table, knuckles down, looks at you across the table, and says, "Honestly, I don't know what I'm expecting to attack us, but every time I dig deeper into this, I am caught unaware. I'm caught unprepared. I don't want the same thing to be happening again. Every time I go and try to figure out what's going on, every time I find a new piece of this puzzle, something assaults me and mine. I lose people that are my friends. The last assault on the embassy caused the death of a dozen guards, three of which I've known for more than 10 years. We were able to bring them back, but well, when you get brought back, you're not quite the same." He looks over towards Cairn.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a traumatic experience and something that I wouldn't wish on, well, I would wish on some of my enemies. But I'm just trying to err on the side of caution.
what have you learned of the artifact and how is it linked to your family?
It was everything that I know about it is that it was something created a couple hundred years ago by a pasha, a powerful mage in our family. Gave it to the eldest son, his eldest son, once they had some sort of falling out, in order to protect that son, even though the son didn't want to have anything to do with him. Uh, a lot of that information is lost, as we were not always the wealthy family that we are today. What is very well known is that the artifact is linked to us, and it does respond specifically to us, and that the more that I've been looking into things, I've been able to find a couple of old records that refer to this thing as a piece of light. And he kind of goes, "Oh," and kind of shuffles through some papers that are on the table and pushes forward a little document and says, "This, I don't really know what it means, but this is the most direct source that I've been able to find for anything." And he shows you a page that looks like it's been torn out of a journal. It's a little smudged, a little old. I would have the handout to give you guys, but it got fucked up. And says, it's a sheet of paper that has written on it, "I've seemed to find that those that pursue the scroll don't have identities, or there is something based around their name." And you see the word name is written in capital N. Um, Something that is based around their name. Uh, this is the only clue that I've been able to find about what is hunting me, but hopefully the pursuit will die down. I head away from the Shadowfell into the mortal world. I need to find a new life for myself, a new life for my family. And then you see Deskir, once you get done reading it, Deskir says, that was taken from what we believe to be the journal of the original owner of the scroll."
Does does the phrase or creatures without names, does that signify anything to Sorelka in terms of worshiping the traveler and people keeping their identity on the down low and not revealing who they are? Does it seem significant from a religious standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common practice for people of the Traveler. I mean, the Traveler himself goes by dozens of different names.
Exactly.
Um, does someone want to give me a history or religion check?
I can do that.
Just one or one from everyone?
The way that these checks tend to work is if you have something that you want, if you're like, "Oh, would my character know something about blank," then you can say, "This is what I'm trying to look for." I'm calling for a history check to see if anyone knows something, so everyone can go ahead and roll. And it is a choice of either history or religion, not both.
25 history. So, not quite hard to see.
28. I'm not dazed.
So those of you guys that think about historical things can find that there's a lot of old sort of historical notations, most of which are like are old enough that most people consider them to be not great sources of information. Several hundred years old. But there's a fairly strong current, a couple hundred years ago, of people referring to things with as names being important, names sort of the capital N. Um, and it's something that is talked about a lot in sort of a lot of textbooks of things that have proper names for things have power. Um, and so some of you guys are at least cursory aware. Ember, you are familiar with the idea that in certain older history books, they always refer to that all of the older history books, whenever it's written by a particular person, say a general writes his own stories of the war, he refers to himself in a moniker. He never uses his own name. Even the older history books, they tend to have covers that are made by someone else, so that the cover of the book, even if it has the name of the general or whoever actually wrote it, it's written by someone else, and that's a sort of strong sort of theme in some of the older history books.
Interesting. I'll go on a long tangent about that to the rest of the group.
By the way, did I say librarian?
No.
Okay, good.
I think he's making jokes.
I think it's just that Ember rolled the highest, so it's like, whoa, the barbarian knows stuff.
We we have a guy in our Epic group that doesn't say librarian, he says librarian. Or yeah.
I like librarian.
Better than nuclear.
So yeah, that's what you get. Is that a lot of the older history books seem to take a special note of name as being an important piece. Anyways, puns aside, do you guys have any other questions or anything else to ask?
I'm
Does
out of
not sound like
ideas.
it.
Yeah, I'm out of ideas.
The silence is deafening.
Yep. So after about another 30 minutes or so, the knights get fully set up. Deskir has a couple of servants that are going with him, carrying things, gathering, big bundles full of papers and things like that, things that you would need for a meeting, as well as what seems to be a couple of books that he talks about as being their reference materials for what they might be facing, and has them carried along as they start to head through the city.
Are any of you trained in Arcana?
Yes.
Can you if there's anything going on with these knights before we leave?
Try.
You guys have about 30 minutes, so if you guys want to go and talk to the knights or do something else, you can definitely do so.
I'd like to talk to them just to distract them from the fact that they're being checked out by my friend or my request.
It's not a very good roll, though.
Just to get their names and maybe use myself, and I won't use my name, but I'll use a name.
So the knights that you talk to, could you give me a diplomacy check, Sorelka?
Oh, I'd like to use bluff.
Okay. Because you're trying to hide your identity and just kind of
I don't
distract
want to
them.
reveal exactly.
Ishtar, you can tell that they've pretty much got minor magic items on them. If you've got 3 of the knights together, the 3 of them probably have a weapon, neck, and armor. But each of them has, like, one guy will have just a magic sword, one guy will have just magic armor, that sort of stuff. The only one that looks to be fairly well equipped is the older knight that was talking to Deskir. He seems to have very nice equipment, something that's very old and sort of battle worn. He is obviously a veteran of at least a couple of campaigns, and he's the only one of the guards that seems to be not very friendly towards other people. And Sorelka, talking to the different guards, they will introduce themselves, talk about their name, where they're from. They kind of joke with each other. A lot of the knights seem to be newer. They aren't fresh and green, but there's not a lot of experience between them. The knights talk about how they've been recently been home and that sort of stuff, and they will again introduce themselves by names and talk about, oh, this is this guy, he's from this place, and describe how they've kind of, a lot of them are from different areas in the country of Cormier.
And that is that. I want to get a sense of if that's abnormal to call the knights from different areas like that.
You know that it's not. Basically, all the places that
Okay.
they mention are places that are inside the country of Cormier.
All right. And yeah. Anyway, so you saw my role, I assume.
I did. Karen, the Eladrin guards are not there. Um, if you ask about it, the ambassador will let you know that Aliana is planning on meeting you all at the entrance of the Forbidden Zone.
Okay.
She much prefers stealth as a means of protection rather than force of arms.
I like both.
Both is nice.
So, any other questions or anything you guys want to do in that 30 minutes before you guys get going?
Other than to
Well,
state, I want to keep a close eye on the knights while we travel in case they are being possessed or turned. That's it.
Akara's gonna summon his cat so that he's and mounted, so he's ready for battle, and he's gonna try and keep an eye on the back. He'll be at the back of the line trying to make sure that nobody comes from behind, since that will be our weakest spot.
Okay.
Yeah, these shadows can just pop out of the ground, unfortunately, if it's shadows again.
Yeah, but if I'm behind, then I can move a little faster forward.
No,
If I'm
sure.
forward, it's gonna
Yeah.
be a little harder
No, it's
to
all
move
good.
behind.
I'm just saying we'd have to have eyes in the bottom of our feet, behind, in the back of our heads, etc. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, how long will the meeting be?
I'm sorry?
How long will the meeting last?
Deskir says he doesn't really know exactly what they're going to be sharing. They've been very tight-lipped about what information they might have about this growing threat.
How are the shades threatened?
So the servant explained a minute earlier, but Deskir will reiterate. Basically, there's been a lot of people going missing on the Shadowfell side that are not going missing because of they're in the Shadowfell. A lot of very dark creatures like vampires and things going missing. Um, and the shades are concerned that there is something preying on the creatures in the Shadowfell.
All right.
Just like there are people that are going missing in the city of Urmlaspyr on the Mortal World side. So, sounds like no one else has anything else to do before you guys head out, and you make your way through the city. You can definitely tell that Aliana is taking a different route for a very good reason. Once the nights spread out and you guys have six
Hey,
little
wake up.
pools of light. One second. Sorry, I got poked by someone on TeamSpeak. I had to figure out whatever it is they want.
Hey, wake up.
Okay. So, I know, right? So there are six pools of light that have a group of 5 knights gathered around, and they all kind of spread out around the group in a loose formation, and allow you guys to head forward. The only people that are riding, several of them are mounted on war horses. The only people that are riding close to the ambassador is the kind of the old knight seems to be riding close to the ambassador, not close enough that he's in sort of conversational range, but obvious that he's staying a little bit closer, watching, kind of looking around at everything, and paying very close attention to what's going on, kind of in the general vicinity, and listening into what the soldiers are saying and what the soldiers are kind of light talking about in the rings. And he'll occasionally kind of bark out an order for people to stand better, for people to look up straight, pay attention, that sort of stuff. Going through the city is very tense, but nothing occurs. Once you get to the wall, to the Forbidden Zone, which is this 50-foot tall warded wall that cuts the city right down in the middle, and you can tell there's this sort of oppressive feel. Even the lights that are shining from those little poles kind of end at the top of the wall. You can see that there is a group of Eladrin guards that are waiting outside of the gate into the Shadowfell. And as the sort of group of Cormyrian knights arrives, you hear some talk ahead in Elven, and the doors swing open, and the Eladrin knights, the Eladrin come forward, kind of bow, talk a little bit to the other guards, and space themselves out a further ring outside. So you've got in the very center, you've got Deskir, Iona, and the Old Knight, and then outside of that ring, you've got the 6 groups of 5 knights, and then outside of that, maybe a block away on either side, you have the Eladrin guards that are sort of spread around, and then Aliana joins that sort of middle pod once the guards are spread around. She just teleports into place next to Deskir. And you guys enter into the Shadowfell. Are you guys doing anything in specific as you go? Yeah, time to deploy the floating lanterns. Are you guys doing anything in particular as you guys go into the Shadowfell?
Probably, well, yeah.
I'm gonna hold one of my potions in one hand and prepare to drink it if we're attacked. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep an eye on I'm gonna stay near Deskir and Iona if they're together, and keep an eye on the knights as well as I can.
So, you guys continue to head through the Shadowfell, kind of winding your way through these very close streets. The buildings in here, again, if you look kind of on the map, it's a little bit hard to see, but the idea is that the this is the harbor, and I'll make sure I'm on the right layer. Yeah, this is the harbor. This side over here is the Mortal World side, and this side over here is the Shadowfell side. So the Shadowfell side has a lot bigger, sort of more grandiose buildings. Some of them look like they've fallen into a little bit of disrepair, but the smaller buildings on the Shadowfell side are as large or larger than the largest buildings on the side of the Mortal World. And the buildings are built very close together. There's not space for lawns or open areas. There's very few courtyards, things like that. There's just a maze of these streets with these massive buildings rising up. So you continue to make your way through. You make it to a large street that kind of looks like a Broadway. It's got a bit of a thing that's broken down the middle with some sort of liquid that flows down the center of the city. You get the impression that it's probably water in some form or fashion, but as the light falls over it, you see this dark sort of mist rise above the liquid, and you see the knights sort of avoid standing near it. And then Ryan answers his phone.
Sorry about that.
It's fine.
I know it's loud.
So the knights sort of take up their positions. 2 of the knights that have the sticks, the poles with the sunlights on them, they are the sunrods on them. They put their sunrod poles over the water, noticing that the light from the sunrod does not pierce that mist. And you can only sort of murkily see that there's some sort of liquid underneath it, and then they pull the poles back. You can see that there are people that are kind of watching from the shadows off in the distance, but other than the people that are watching this big parade of light go through the Shadowfell, there's no one on the streets. It's very, very quiet.
I'd like to ask Aliana or Deskir or Iona if that's normal, not having ever been on the Shadowfell side.
Deskir looks to you and says, "From what I've heard, there are things here that the light actually hurts. I think, from my understanding of things at least, this is equivalent to someone going down the center of our streets in the mortal world, a group of fire elementals or something like that."
I see. Okay.
And then you hear the old knight. He kind of flips something from underneath his breastplate, and you see a heavy symbol of a monitor that kind of clinks onto his breastplate and says, "I don't like it though. There can be too many enemies hiding out there in those shadows." And then the Iona kind of rests her hand on the old knight's shoulder and says, "But we have a lot of people here just in case. All of your knights are very brave and will keep us protected, and these here are used to dealing with some of the creatures in the Shadowsfell." And kind of gestures towards the party. The knight sort of harumphs a little bit and then goes, kind of moves his horse to kind of purposefully be a little bit further away from the party, and continues going forward. Uh, that is a good question. Does anyone have dark vision? I don't think dwarves have it. I know the dragonborn have normal vision. I think dwarf has low light. I think Thrycreen has normal, and then Ishtar is a human, and Ophelia is.
Ishtar is a revenant and has low light vision. But yeah.
Gotcha.
Bright green or low light too.
Oh well, everybody's got low light except for the dragonborns, who are more blind than everyone else. But yes, you can't see through the mists. So they continue down this broad pathway to a building that is enormous and kind of reaches up way past the edge of the poles of light. And you can see there are dozens of Shatterkai that are waiting outside. Many of them have weapons and armor that look a little bit like the city guards, but they look much more well equipped. They look more like a group of mercenaries than they do like a guard company. There's not a strong sort of theme going through them, other than the fact that they look like are ready to um, they're ready to fight. And as they see everyone kind of wash into the light, you see some of them kind of cringe back from the light a little bit and then stand back up, uh, sheltering their eyes from the bright light. One of the Shatterkai comes forward, holding a cloak over something, and then you can see inside of this big cloak there are little pinpoints of light. Deskir orders a couple of the light bearers to stand aside, and the Shatterkai goes up. Inside of his cloak, there's someone who would be about the size of a small child, who's maybe 3 feet tall. And there's a very sweet sounding voice that comes from the cloak that says, "Ah, Deskir, so glad you could make it. And with such pomp and circumstance. I assume you will not need to be bringing this indoors?" Uh, Deskir nods his head to the voice and says, "Madam, I will need some sort of protection inside." And then sort of gestures towards the two Empyreans that are stomping on behind, and towards the party, as well as towards the old knight, and says, "These should be sufficient inside. I assume you have your own guards in place." She sort of coos and makes a strange sound and goes, "Ah, yes. We have many guards around, many eyes that are watching. But you should be safe here, safe and in the warmth of the darkness. Please come inside." You see the Shatterkai kind of turn the cloak away from everyone and start walking back up the steps into the big building.
I want to feel like she's a good person, but her queens make me feel uncomfortable.
Not real happy with being in the Shadowfell either.
So you see Iona make this kind of gesture like she's trying to wipe something off of her arms. And then Deskir looks towards her and says, I know, I feel it too." I kind of turns back towards the party and says, "So that is Madame Dasani, and I think that she's okay. Although everything about her puts my hairs on end."
Karen wants to passive insight.
Go ahead.
Does Karen get any any sense of that she was being honest, inviting us on, telling us that it's safe where we're going, or does he get a bad feeling about her?
Go ahead and give me an insight.
Would his passive insight pick up anything?
So your passive insight will pick up something, and I'm going to ask you for an active insight check since you're trying to actively figure out something about this
Sure.
shadowy voice.
One moment, I'll just roll it for you.
Okay, so you can tell that the woman inside of the cloak had a very, very powerful sort of latent ability that her voice causes effects on other people. You can tell that she was holding back. She was holding back that sort of ability when she was talking, but that sort of weird, sickly sweet feeling that you got from listening to her is as much as she can restrain that sort of feeling. You have heard stories about other creatures that have this sort of ability. So she is she's probably a siren or something with a similar ability of a siren.
Okay. And you said she was about 3 feet tall.
Yeah, she's about 3 feet tall.
Does she like look like Pixie, or does she look like
Since none of you
fairy or
guys have
something?
dark vision, all you saw was two little eyes in the cloak. You didn't see anything in the cloak. There was very clearly some sort of uh, stronger darkness underneath the cloak that the guy was holding that was protecting her from the lights of you guys being around. Clearly, she's a Jawa. Jawa confirmed.
Well, Karen passes along the information. That she might have some charm magic about her. It seems like her, either from her voice or something about her, seems to have a bit of a control about people's minds or people's feelings. But at the same time, Karen believes she was kind of holding that power in check, kind of trying not to affect this.
If we were to deafen ourselves, would it prevent us from by it?
If you would deafen yourself, it would prevent you from hearing her voice. Granted, that's going to cause other problems, but yes.
No, but I'm just curious to know. I mean, are we saying her voice is the source of the power?
Yes, her voice is
Okay.
clearly the source of the power. So, Deskir tells you to try to be on your guard. He's going to ask for you guys to. He says, "We're going to be heading into here ourselves." I kind of see his hand shaking a little bit. I, I didn't realize that not being attacked would be so nerve-wracking. Um, Once we make it into the central chambers, the chambers will be warded, and I ask for you to make sure that nothing can get in or out. And kind of looks towards the others and says, "The guards will set up out here and in some of the hallways leading into the council chambers," and kind of has you guys follow him up the steps into the building. So head up into the building. The building itself is a lot like the city. The building looks to be built at a very awkward size. Looks to be about half again as large as it needs to be for humans to pass through. So it's built so that Goliaths would still feel that it's still slightly uncomfortably large. And the sort of the way that everything is structured here, the tables, the chairs, everything is just a little bit too big. As you make your way through and into the inside, you can pass several more sort of checkpoints with guards in them. Again, most of the guards here look more like mercenaries than they look like town guards, and make your way into the very inside. There is a council chamber with a big central table on it that has spots for several people gathered around. You see that inside the council chamber there are a couple of guards standing behind two figures that are just cloaked in shadows and look incredibly tiny compared to the huge chairs that are around them. And both of the cloaks with eyes look up towards you all as you enter into the room. And you hear a little like tut tut sound come from one of them that you recognize the same voice as the woman from outside. Deskir nods to you and says, "Whatever you can do to make sure that we are not disturbed, if at all possible, I would appreciate it. And good luck." He turns and steps into the interior of the room. So inside the room, there's two guards per shade. There is Aliana and her two guards, and then Deskir and Iona, and they're bringing with them the two Empyreans. The two Empyreans and the Old Knight. So they all step into the room, and you hear kind of whispered words as the not the woman but the other shade casts something and locks off the room, seals it away from you guys.
Uh,
You can still see, but they're basically on the other side of a magic circle.
but we're on the
Okay.
outside of it.
What's up?
We're on the outside of it.
Correct.
Deskier's on the inside of it.
Correct. Which is
But like,
which is the intention.
Is he completely alone?
No, he's got the. It's him and Iona, and then protecting them are the two Empyreans and the Old Knight.
Okay, at least they have some defenses.
You get the strong impression that you guys are well. Deskier said make sure that they aren't disturbed and nothing gets into the central area. You get the very strong impression that the way that the room is set up and the way that sort of the feel of the room, that you're not really supposed to have a small army with you protecting you inside of the room, but each of them have brought personal guards.
does Iona
I
have the
thought you were
artifact with
supposed to
her?
be personal guards today.
So each of them have two personal guards.
Oh, only two.
Personal guard.
Yeah. So Deskier has the Empyreans, for example. Iona does have the artifact with her, but it is covered and it's in a big cloak that's kind of wrapped around. It's got straps on it. They've called it the scroll case, or they've called it the scroll of light. A couple of different names. You can call it the scroll of light. So
I thought I heard a shard of light at some point, even.
yeah, there's another thing that one of the older histories talked about shards of light and said that this was one of them, but there's a lot of different names for it. Thentarum family heirloom. So you can see, although you can't hear what's going on inside of the room as the meeting gets started. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put you guys in initiative order as you guys are on guard duty. So please toss up initiative for me. So you guys are waiting outside of the chambers of this meeting. Ember, what are you doing while you're waiting?
Okay, I want to make everything clear first. We're in a large room. There's a magic circle in the middle where the NPCs are, and then we are outside of the magic circle. So we can see them but not hear them, correct?
Correct. And kind of scattered around the room and down the hallways, there are lots of Shatterkai and Shatterkai guards, but there's also those pockets of Cormyrian knights. You can see down a couple of the hallways light coming from those light poles.
Okay, how many exits are there? Corridors, doors
4.
outside of? 4, okay. North, south, west, and east, I suppose?
Yep.
Well, since Ember is based on flying, she's also gonna consider the ceiling. Is it too tall to actually see a ceiling?
Yeah, you don't see a ceiling at all.
Well, in that case, that's where Ember is going to watch for intruders.
Okay.
If you want to check, I can roll perception for it.
So are you going to stay? Because I know, does Ember have flight? Is he with a?
She has a draconian flight thing, so.
So there are sort of what looks to be almost like crenellations. There's little juts sticking out in the wall where you could sort of fly up, hop on, and go up the wall if you wanted to see what's above.
That's not a bad idea, actually. If I may, I mean, would it be considered like rude or crude or disturbing to do that?
You get the strong impression that the magic circle that's blocking your ability to hear what's going on inside of the circle is probably two-way. So if you're searching around looking for stuff, I mean, you're a guard. That's kind of what you're supposed to be doing. So you don't think anyone would be offended if you search around for stuff.
Fair enough. So I'll roll athletics to, well, check out like if there are any exits, entrances higher above. Because the whole flying up to a perch and then to the next and to the next.
Okay. So you make your way up, and then after you go through like the first couple of them, you're able to see that the way that the platforms are there, they're spaced they're actually exactly spaced 25 feet apart. And they seem to be here for a particular purpose, kind of like what you're doing with them. And so, about the time that you get to the end of where your flying would be, it gives you another spot to land. You don't get the impression that it was designed for Dragonborn specifically, but someone else that can sort of move 25 feet in a jump. After you make it up a couple, you can start to tell that this room seems to go forever upwards. And outside of the ambient light of the room, which is this sort of very faint purplish light that suffuses the area, um, about 3 sections up, so you're 50 feet up, and you can see another 25 feet, there is a series of ledges that have Shatterkai on them that are sitting on these little crenellations with their feet dangling over the edge, watching kind of all around them, and several of them are looking up at you.
Don't mind me, boys.
So one of them kind of tips his head at you. You see the dreads kind of dangle down below, and says, "No worries. It's good to check all the entrances and exits. It goes up quite a ways, though. We'll be watching."
Glad to have you watching our back. Or head. Frills? I don't know.
So the Shatterkai smiles. There are 6 Shatterkai that are sitting on those little platforms that you can see. A couple of them are watching down, but most of them are watching up.
Can I roll an insight and see how trustworthy they are? Like, can I count on them to actually warn us if things show up?
Sure.
Easy DC.
So, they looked very relaxed. Either this is something they do all the time, or they're not putting a lot of effort into whatever they're doing. And they sort of the ones that are paying attention to you are sort of smiling awkwardly is probably the wrong word to say, but have kind of a knowing smile as they watch you kind of hop from ledge to ledge. And you can see that the ones that they're sitting on, each of them seem to be a little bit more worn. They've got a spot where each of them has their blade sort of sitting on the crenellation next to them that they can get to it easily. These look like they are posts where people are supposed to be. So at minimum, you get that that this sort of arrangement is common for them.
Okay, fair enough. I think my conclusion is that they're certainly not expecting anyone to come from above, so that's why they are relaxed. I'll I don't know. I mean, if one was at the floor of the room, could one hear those guards if one yelled at them or if they yelled at us?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. In that case, I'll basically go back down since it makes no difference to seeing what's above if I'm here or 50 feet below on the ground.
Okay. Karen, what do you do?
And next.
Karen turns the light down on the floating lantern that he has nearby, and he's looking for one of the Shadowkai. Maybe he can have words with to find out what's happening on their side of the Shadowfell, or
Okay.
their side of the city.
So you can turn down one of the lanterns and go over to talk to one of the Shatterkai.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Karen approaches one of the Shadowkai and introduces himself, tells him he's here on behalf of Desk here at Thentrum, and he's curious to know what troubles. You hear that there are many creatures that are being attacked, creatures that should be formidable in their own right, over here in the Shadowfell side.
So after you introduce himself, he nods to you and says, "My name is Jermilgan, and we've been seeing a lot of strange things here. I've been told to sort of keep my eyes out for any vampires that are acting oddly. There have been several that have gone missing here in the past couple of weeks."
Have your investigations turned up any clues as to what might be happening, or where they're going?
He says, "We've found a couple of them, but they weren't quite right. The ones that go missing, if we can find them again, they tend to be very wounded and insane's not quite the right word. Altered, changed. there's some stuff in the Shadowfell that does that to normal people, to non-undead, but we've not seen anything that has the same sort of. He kind of thinks that I guess you would call it in your language blanking. You don't have a great word for it.
Are you saying that they're changed physically, or more like mentally, psychologically?
So he kind of whistles through his teeth. Yeah, he says something in another language to one of the other people in the hallway. And then, actually, let me see if you guys have the language. Probably not, but that's why I have the cheat sheet thing. Uh, does not look like. Oh, actually, look, Ophelia, you can hear what he says.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so he speaks in deep speech down the hallway, and says, "What would you call blanking in the common tongue?" And one of them responds back in common, amnesia, kind of. So he turns back
Oh,
and says, amnesia, sort of. Although, he kind of gestures down the hallway. Apparently, it's not quite the right word. He seems very unfamiliar with the word amnesia.
Okay. Kieran's familiar with anatomy of some different species through the healing that he's had to do. He's wondering what kind of injuries are they coming back with, physical injuries.
He nods his head and says, scrapes, bruises, normal sorts of signs of struggle. A couple of them have rope burns or places where they were manacled, but nothing serious. Even even things that a vampire can heal from almost immediately.
Interesting.
He kind of he says, it is notable that they don't actually heal from them, though. A vampire and a lot of the other creatures, they have to think to heal themselves. It's not quite the right word. They have to. He seems like he's struggling, kind of moving his hand. I don't know. He says something in deep speech. And Ophelia, do you want to translate for him?
yeah.
He says in deep speech, they have to will it to be. They have to consciously think about what they want done in order for it to be done. That is how a vampire's healing works. These don't have a mind of their own anymore, and so they don't know to consciously heal themselves until someone reminds them of the fact.
Okay.
Hmm.
Kieran shares this with the rest of the party. He also asked Tremogan, he's curious, is it just the vampires that they're finding, or are there other creatures that are affected in such a manner?
So he shifts to side and says, supposedly only vampires. There's been rumors, though.
Okay. So Kieran shares that information and ends his turn.
Okay. Can I get a overall sort of diplomacy check from you, please?
Sure thing.
Or a streetwise, either of those would work, but they're probably the same for you.
Diplo might be a little bit higher.
Diplo's a little better. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you get from him that he doesn't really mind chatting to sort of pass the time, but he's not going to share a lot of stuff from you that is going to be, you know, not common knowledge. So he's sharing common knowledge just as a way to shoot the shit and pass the time. Sorelka, you're up.
Right, so I'd like to move to the far side of the magic circle so that I can see Deskir and Iona's faces, and I'd actually like to try to read their lips.
Okay.
Right, green.
Give me a insight check or perception, both. Kind of both.
Or if you want the other ones to average.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, I rolled better. So still just low DC, I think.
Yep. So kind of reading their lips and watching them talk. For the first part of the meeting, they seem to be going through a lot of pleasantries, talking about different things, and then after a little while, they start spreading out papers. the shadowy things, the cloaks in the shadows, they motion towards the guards, and the guards do the same sort of thing. While Deskir and Iona seem to be personally going over a lot of the papers of things and talking about things, and you can pick up several words here and there about when they talk about this is what we've learned, and they talk about some other sorts of things. A lot of the information they shared with you is very similar to what they're sharing with the Shades. They just have a lot more documentation. They're spending a lot more time on it. Um, you can't really tell what the Shades are saying because they're completely hidden.
Right. That's
But
why I didn't even bother with them. I was like, we couldn't even see into the thing's cloak.
But you can tell that the Shades are kind of talking back and forth with Iona and with Deskir, and also giving instructions to the four Shatterkai guards, who are moving things around the table and kind of showing what they have. These big pieces of vellum and other sorts of things that are gathered around. You can tell that one of the things that the Shade says hits Iona in a certain way, and she gives a very noticeable shiver, and then sort of bows her head and turns away from the group. And you can see sort of tears welling up in her eye, and she sort of like tries to calm herself.
Huh.
Um, Deskir seems a little bothered by it, but not the same. He's not. He doesn't seem like he's annoyed at the people who said whatever they said, but more like concerned for his daughter.
Sure.
Like maybe whatever that was just said was not particularly offensive, but it hit her very hard.
But I mean, so from that, I can it seems like they might be saying somehow she's central to whatever's going on, and that has concerned her in some way.
That's a
Anyway.
reasonable assumption.
Okay.
So, that's pretty much what you can get from watching. The meeting will continue for like that for a little while as they're going back and forth talking about different things. As they're going along, she will eventually turn back and start going through the paperwork as they sort of share all of Deskir's books with the stuff that they put on the table. You can tell that Iona does not touch anything that the Shades put on the table.
Oh, interesting.
And Deskir touches everything that they give him very gingerly. Um, Kind of like you'd expect someone to handle like a poisonous serpent.
Fascinating. So they're not
Venomous serpent.
exactly here because they were looking forward to getting away from the city for a bit.
Right.
I'm just going to keep focused on them. I'm particularly looking for any sign that their expression might change. The siren thing attempts to.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Ophelia.
Is the reasonable assumption that Amber would tell me that the Shadowkai up there were mostly looking above during their guard?
I think that's a safe assumption to make.
Yes, I will
In that
tell you what I
case,
saw.
In that case, that likely means that at least they think that the most likely direction from which we'll be attacked is from above. So I think that kind of warrants reinforcing it a bit. And thus, I would probably try to. Mm, I have I have an idea in mind, but I'm not sure how exactly to word it. Can you give me a bit more time to word it?
Sure. Ishtar.
Okay, so I'd like to sort of get as close to the center of the room as I can without infringing on their magic circle of not being there. And sort of sit down in like a meditative pose and just close my eyes, just expand my consciousness, just threads of my power, just around the entire room as far as I can. Since last time they sort of phased through the Shadowfell in, I'd like to just sense the entire room and try and keep watch for any sort of Shadowfell invaders and make sure I know what's going on.
Okay. Now you do know that you're in the Shadowfell currently, right?
Yeah, but I assume they can do something similar.
Oh, I'm just making sure that that was clear. We're good.
Yeah, I'm aware. Okay.
So I don't know how you're intimidating to get that
I'm
done.
forcing my personality through the entire room. because I'm a sorcerer. I'm just forcing everywhere. I'm trying to be everywhere at once.
That's super sketchy as far as justification.
Really?
But yeah,
Oh,
like
it makes perfect sense to me. I wasn't aware that it was.
it, but it's all right. So,
Okay.
sensing around the room, you can feel that there is someone else that's doing a similar thing to you, as there is kind of arcane magic that's already there. Um, what is there is much more formalized. And as you sort of look around and see things, you can see that down one of the hallways, there's one of the Eladrin guards that notices you notice them and kind of nods to you. And you can tell that that effect is coming from her. So the guards that you saw last time, the Eladrin women that were protecting Aliana, who's one of the people in the middle of the circle, are doing something similar to what you're doing. They're magically warding and protecting the area around the room from people crossing over.
Interesting.
So, Ophelia, are you ready to go or no?
Yeah, I would teleport a bit up and just basically plant hidden pockets of magic around the path upwards. Basically, the thing that if someone touches it, they will be buffed in a lot of very bright and unpleasant light. And then I would inform the Shadowkai that where these are, so they don't step in them. Basically, just as a trap against potential invaders from upwards.
Okay.
Would it be something like a bluff check or conceal magic?
Sure. Trying to make little magical bombs.
Yeah. That's
So
medium PC.
you can make a couple of them and spread them around. As you're doing it, one of the Shatterkai is going to teleport off the ledge to get a little bit closer to you, onto one of the little platforms that's a little bit closer to you, and he says, "What exactly are those?"
I explained to him the idea.
He kind of chews on his lip a bit. That's gonna blind us as well as it's gonna blind other people, right?
Uh, well, at least you know where they are, so you wouldn't trigger them on accident. While enemies wouldn't know where they are, and we would have time to react to them.
So he kind of chews on his lip again and goes, "Huh." He goes, "Well, I mean, I guess we'll try to see if we can figure out some way to do with it." He looks up. "Hey, Nick." He snaps his fingers really loud. "Nicker." And then he keeps snapping his fingers, and the guy doesn't seem to respond to him. And then he teleports next to him and like pokes him with the edge of his boot. And the guy finally like snaps and pays attention as he was looking up into the like the darkness above where you guys are. And he goes, "What? What?" He goes, "One of the other guard people. They're making light bombs of some kind." He switches to deep speech, which you can understand. And the guy goes, "Okay, they're making light bombs. Why should we care?" And the guy goes, "Well, if they go off, they're going to blind us, and then we can't see. And when we can't see, we die." The guy goes, and he calls down to you, "Yeah, don't do that." So you see
I
the one
mean,
guy that went to go talk to the guy up on the ledge. He teleports back down, and says, "I think what Nick is trying to say is we would appreciate it if you did not do that."
they
Can I
really
get?
seem like they don't give a shit about it.
Can you give me a insight check, Ophelia?
All right, I'll give you my amazing insight.
And before natural 20.
Hey,
A natural 15 is also pretty nice.
I say 20 is enough to recognize that the guy here, he does seem like it's, oh, that looks like it's going to make my job harder. He's kind of giving you the same sort of deal as like any sort of city guard who you tell him that he has to do some extra work. However, you can tell that that's not actually what's bothering him. What seems to be bothering him is when he called for the one guy's name and was trying to get him to pay attention, the guy didn't react to him. Um, and you can see that he's got a little bit of concern for the other Shatterkai.
Since they won't even notice what's happening. I mean,
Maybe.
at least at this point, I'm pretty sure that relying on them isn't too useful, so it's
You
sort
can
of
tell
a
that the
better
other
idea.
Shatterkai definitely paid attention when he called out something, but the person he was specifically calling to wasn't paying attention to him, was just staring up into the darkness.
Oh, so there might be something wrong with him.
Maybe.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, he might be under the influence of something. So, will we have a second round of this?
We will have a second round. So
So
the
yeah, I'll
question
probably think for now.
the question that I want to know
What the,
is, will you create the little pockets, or are you going to listen to the Shatterkai that's standing right next to you and not create them?
I would probably create them still, since it kinda, I mean, all of them looked kinda like not very interested in this thing, so they don't seem all that useful compared. I mean, they seem like they will just run away if a fight breaks out anyway. So I'm not sure how much use it is to cater to them. Or at least that's how I feel.
Okay. So the guy that teleported down to talk to you, watches you create them. He very much has like a very sour look on his face, as he does not like that at all, but is not going to be bothered enough to stop you either.
And I tell the rest of the party about that one who looks like he's under the influence of something.
Akradar, you're up.
Oh dang, this makes it so difficult for me. Let's see. Given what everyone said, okay. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna move forward and gonna try to find a spot where my tiger and I can sit that doesn't, shall we say, make it cumbersome for all my allies to move.
The hallways are wide and tall enough. Uncue your mic for me. The hallways are wide enough and tall enough that you can easily ride your tiger through the hallway. And
Okay.
all of the rooms are built to the same scale.
And I'll just go a little ahead of the party, and I'll kind of stroke my cat to kind of keep his senses up, since he'll probably, maybe not really, be better at spotting things because of his senses. And I'll just stand there and try and make as good a better as I can, seeing as everybody else has everything else well done.
Okay. So, about an hour into the meeting, there is some commotion that's happening down one of the hallways. You see a couple of the Shattercard guards, as well as one of the Knights of Cormyr and one of the Eladrin guards starts walking down the hallway towards you all. Um, they seem to be moving with a purpose, and one of them, the Eladrin, walks up to Akradar on his mount and says, "I think there is something that the uh, people in the circle need to know. There's been a little bit of commotion outside in the city."
All right. I kind of gesture to everybody else that there's been something happening outside that they should probably
She
call into the circle.
she says it loud enough that everyone who's in the room that's not inside the circle can hear her. Also, roll 20 decided to crash, so that's fun.
Yay, systems.
So I'll be back in a
Also,
second.
we got a random. Okay, that was well.
But yes, if you want to stay non-AFK, respond to the bot because it doesn't ping everyone else.
And That's actually a good idea. I'll have to try it next time.
So, if you'd like to respond more than what you already have, you may do so to the person. But other than that, it's going to be Ember's turn to decide what to do as the group of people goes into the room.
Right, well, what I wanted to do was actually to fly back up, since Ophelia left a proper clear path without traps.
Okay.
And then chat a little more with the guards, because with the new information, they seem to not be taking their job seriously. And Ember actually has a work ethic, so she takes offense to that.
Okay. Are you going to talk to the same guy you talked to last time?
Was that the same guy that Ophelia talked to?
Yes.
In that case, we did get an insight that told us that he was worried about his buddy Nick.
Yep.
So I'll first of all ask him about that. Like, why was he basically just staring into space?
Why was who staring at us? Are you going to talk to Nick?
No, I was gonna ask. What's the first guy's name?
He hasn't given his name yet.
Then I'll ask him his name first of all.
So he.
And I'll introduce myself at the same time.
So you introduce yourself. He says, "My name is Lucas. Lucas Motke."
Alright, so I'm going to ask Lucas why he thinks that Nick was staring into space and not responding to his name, first of all. Like, ask if that's worrisome.
Give me a diplomacy check.
That's what I expected. Natural 15 is good.
So he kind of shrugs his shoulders a little bit. He looks a little uncomfortable and says, "I don't know. When you're up here staring up into that darkness with nothing going on, it can get really boring, and some people can daydream and space out. But Nick's our lieutenant. He doesn't really, I don't know, he doesn't really act like that. He doesn't have that problem, and we're all on high alert from today. It's odd." He is teleported down a little bit to talk to you, so he's speaking quietly to make it clear that he's not speaking loud enough to be to be overheard. And he glances over towards where Nick is sitting about 30 feet up on one of the little ledges.
Alright, Nick is in line of sight, correct? Like, there's sufficient low light to reach him?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see him. You just see outlines in the purplish light that's in the area, but you can see him sitting on his ledge.
Right, what is he doing now? Like, that's probably hard to tell.
You can see from how he's sitting that he's staring back up into the darkness. He's one of the guys that's watching up.
Right, fair enough. How many other guys were there?
There's 6 of them total up here. 4 of them are watching up, and then there's the one guy that's talking to you, and there's one more that's sort of sitting watching the meeting down below.
Alright, fair enough. And Nick was the lieutenant. That's very interesting. It's very not good for him to do that. So, if I may, I wanna actually fly up to him and give him a bit of a hard time.
So, you fly up to him. What do you say? He notices you kind of appear next to him, and he stops looking up and looks down towards you. He's got a pretty marked frown on his face.
This would be a terrible place to delay, wouldn't it?
It would be a bit awkward to delay here, but if you need to, we can.
I mean, I am bad with the in-character things. I can't decide whether I wanna like talk to him properly or if I want to turn on the drill sergeant charm.
It's up to you. I mean, if you feel like you're having a hard time speaking in character, you can tell me what you're trying to say. Like, you know, rather than saying my name is Ember, da 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 da, you can say I introduce myself. That's fine.
Fair enough. I still need to request a delay though.
Sure.
I'm bad.
Karen, what are you doing?
Is Aliana nearby there?
Aliana is in the circle. She's one of the people that's talking. Although she's not presenting a lot of evidence, she is occasionally one of the shades will say something and she'll respond. One of the like Dusky or Iona will be basically using her as an extra reference point. She's serving the same purpose that a lot of the books and stuff are. She's additional information.
Okay. Perhaps one of her guard, her knights, are available. I
Yeah.
just
So
wanted to.
the people that just walked into the room, there's one of the Eladrin, the Mithranor guards. There's a knight from Cormyr, and there are two Shatterkai guards.
Okay. I guess since I'm not really welcome in the inner circle there, if I can talk to one of her guards, just kind of on the outside nearby the party.
Okay. So like I said, what happened at the beginning of the scene is that one of the Eladrin guards walks into the room and says, "There's commotion in the city. We need to speak to the people inside of the circle." And they're sort of stopping at you all to get you to say that they can pass to the center of the circle or to pass a message or to do whatever.
Okay. So they basically want us to pass the message along to the inner circle, or they want to be able to.
They want to be allowed into the room because the tiger, like Akradar made a point that his tiger is blocking the one of the entrances to the room, and so the guard, the four of them, walked up to where the tiger is, kind of blocking the way into the room, and said, "Hey, we need to get into the room to go into the circle to talk to these people."
Hence why I told them that you should probably call them or something to get permission, because I wasn't gonna let them through without knowing.
Okay. Kieran will try to. I guess he's got a bit of a rapport with Jamorgan, possibly.
Okay.
So he'll approach Jamorgan and he'll pass on the information about the disturbance and the pressing matter, as well as the information that the Eladrin's passing on.
So Drumorgan kind of nods his head and goes back over to where the entrance is, and kind of looks, peeks around the tiger and sees the two Shattercry guards. And he'll pass the information to the other guards that are in the room, and then looks and sees the Shattercry and says a name through a couple of names through the hallway, like he's asking if those are the right people, and neither of the Shattercry respond.
Nobody responds inside the room?
So the people inside of the room, when he talks to, they kind of nod their head. They give normal recognition. He talks to people by name. He seems to be someone that knows all the other guards. And when he looks through, he says it kind of questioningly, like he's not sure if those are the right people or the right names, and they don't respond. And then he kind of shrugs and takes a step aside, like he's going to wait for them to enter the room before he talks to them.
Can Kieran do insight check to just kind of see if Jim Morgan is behaving differently than
Sure.
Before?
You can tell when he called out the names that he's like decently sure that that's the name of the two Shatterkais that are in the room, that are in the hallway. But when they didn't respond at all, he was like, "Well, maybe I got their names wrong." And then he just waited to the side to figure out to talk to them once they enter the room. He doesn't seem to be very concerned about it.
Okay. I raise attention of the rest of the party. I tell them that something's not quite right here. These guards that should be more attentive, they seem to be losing interest in things, especially when we told them that there's a disturbance in the city.
By the way, Jermogan does seem to be agitated. Like, he is reacting as you would expect people to react to there being commotion in the city. He's anxiously awaiting the people coming into the room to get more information. He's just not shoving his way past the tiger.
Okay. Karen asks him, Jermogan, are you feeling all right? Shouldn't you be a little bit more concerned about what I told you?
He goes, I mean, I'm concerned, but I don't know more details. I can't react with no details.
But if there is a present danger, the people inside the room need to be made aware of it. They need to know that it's possibly serious. After all, we have all these people here to protect this meeting.
So he sort of shrugs and says, all right, well, then let them through so they can let the people inside know the details. He kind of gets, when he talks to you, you can tell he's used to guarding doorways where people come with important information, that he doesn't really question them, but he allows them to go through to get the information inside. So, like, he's used to guarding doorways with messengers and things, where the guard is not going to tell the messenger to spill all the beans about what's going on. More that he just makes sure that the messenger is who they're supposed to be, and then allows them to pass to give information to the people inside. And that's what he's sort of expecting to happen here.
Okay. Karen moves past to make it to the inner room there to try to see if there's anything going on inside the small room, the small circle.
So there's still arguments and stuff going back and forth in the small circle. Not arguments, but discussions. as they are going
Okay.
over bits and pieces of information. The people in the small circle don't seem to have noticed that the newcomers have arrived at all.
Okay, Kieran sidles up to Deskirthand here and just kind of makes it known that he needs to speak with him and tells him something's not quite right here.
Who are you
some
going
of the
to?
Deskir, Ventern.
Okay, so you're gonna have to cross the circle and break the circle to talk to him directly.
Don't do that, please.
Oh.
You can try to get his attention, like wave at him from the outside, because he can see you.
I'm looking at him. If you want me to get his attention, I will. And I've got a couple of things I'd like to do before you break the circle, because I don't think the circle needs. I think we should keep the circle up at all costs.
Yeah.
We are come break the circle because they need to deliver information, aren't we?
No, I'd like to take a shot at handling that.
Okay. So
Kieran won't break the circle. I guess he'll let it on to the next person. Did you want me to make a roll for any of the things I did?
you had the insight check, which is what I need you to make the roll for. So Amber, are you ready to go, or do you need a delay? Again?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to be the nice cop this time. So I mean, the first thing I'm gonna do is introduce myself to Nick, was it, and ask him if he is the leader of this unit.
So when you
Like,
introduce himself,
they call him lieutenant. So
when you introduce yourself, he kind of shrugs and says, "Okay, so what?" He doesn't say his own name.
right, but I've heard his name, so I'm asking if that's his name.
So
like you are Nick, correct? The lieutenant of this group.
You see a weird like ripple go through him, like a full body shudder, and he tilts his head slightly to the side and he says, "What did you say to me?" He very clearly kind of motions himself to where his sword is more at the ready.
Okay, I am weirded out by this. I mean, I guess I'll tighten my grip on my scepter gouge thingy. Because this is gonna get interesting, isn't it? He's alone where he's sitting, correct? The others are on different ledges, perches.
Yeah, they're on different perches. They're all fairly close, but...
Right, well, I'll still try to be nice. I'll ask him, I mean, he did ask me a question, so I'll repeat my question, actually. Are you Nick or Nicker, the leader of this this group of guards?
So you see that same sort of ripple go through him again, and you can hear this sort of weird wailing sound coming from the inside of his chest cavity, like there's something happening inside of his chest that is being blocked by the flesh. And he says, "I will not take that kind of thing from you." And you see him pull the weapon, and then all of the Shatterkai up in the alcoves, they immediately stand at the ready and pull weapons. You can tell from everyone who's down below who can see some of the Shatterkai can tell that there's a little bit of confusion going on from them. But Nick sort of stands there, and he looks like he's a little confused. So
well,
he draws his weapon and kind of looks at you confused.
Right, well, clearly there's been some kind of misunderstanding here. I was simply asking you, who I thought was the leader, about your duties here as guards, as fellow guards for this event.
So, do you ask him to identify himself again?
No, I don't. Like, I figured there must have been some kind of mistaken identity. So I still refer to him as like the lieutenant or the leader of the unit.
Okay.
But not my name.
Since you've previously talked to the other guard, Lucas, you can tell Lucas has his sword drawn as well, but he looks really concerned. And he kind of comes up next to you and says, "What did you like?" He kind of goes to one of the little things next to you and calls out to you and says, "What's going on here?" It looks like he's kind of more talking to you than he's talking to the lieutenant.
I am honestly not sure. He does seem addled. I'll whisper back. hopefully not within earshot of Nick.
Yeah, because you guys are on different platforms. So he goes up to one that's right next to you, that's closer to you, so he's saying it in a hushed voice to you. Sounds like he's trying intentionally not to say it to the lieutenant.
Right, I'll do the same kind of voice back. Well, I am pretty closer to the lieutenant than I am to Lucas, right?
Lucas can make it to where he's closer to you, kind of clanging onto the side of the wall. He is intentionally making it to where he can talk to you quietly without the lieutenant overhearing.
Okay, well, I'll stick with the original plan. Actually, I'll tell the lieutenant that, well, clearly there's been some case of mistaken identity. I thought that you were the leader, but I must be mistaken. I apologize, and then I will get myself down to where I speak to Lucas instead.
Okay. So Lucas sort of sees all this pass, and then he just looks supremely confused. Several of the Shattercar look very agitated. Lucas, the way that he's sort of perched on the ledge, looks like he's ready to just jump into fight, but that he doesn't really know who he's supposed to be attacking. He does look very confused. Did you want to say something to Lucas?
Yeah, I'll tell him basically what I saw. That does it require a check of some kind to actually associate the fact that when I use his name that he gets these twitches and the ripples?
No, you can tell that pretty easily. I mean, it is
Yeah,
a noticeable effect.
So I'll tell him well, that basically, and that it's fairly worrying.
So he kind of turns forward and says in a very loud voice, loud enough for the entire room to hear him, like he's broadcasting. Sort of if you've been around enough guards that you know when a guard is like, "Hey, you there," they have a very strong sort of commanding voice that has an authority with it. And he says that voice as he speaks out and says, "Nucursor Trelane, why? Why do you not identify yourself?" And you see the captain sort of make that same sort of weird watery change, and you hear the words of a woman kind of echo around the chamber as something is said. So you hear this woman's voice ring out in the room, and it's this very sort of syrupy sound. It sounds a lot like the voice of the siren. And it says, "Thrice named and done." When that voice comes out, you see the man's face sort of melts as his eyes, where his eyes were, sort of melt into one like broad pate, where there's, instead of being someone's face, there's just a blank mask. The jaw drops down and changes from looking more like someone's mouth to looking like a maw, with the lower jaw extending and looks like it connects to the top of his sternum. When he steps up, you see several of the other Shatterkai change in the same way, but not all of them. You notice down below that the 5 people that just went to enter the room do the exact same thing. Their faces change as that voice echoes around the room, and the other guards immediately go onto arms. As this happens, you hear fighting happening that are echoing through the corridors. So I'm going to ask you guys to roll combat initiative.
Is the siren in the circle attacking Desker or Iona?
Does not seem to be.
Okay. Is there any? Do they have any reaction yet?
They react. The Deskier and Iona withdraw a little bit to go stand between the 2 Empyreans. The Empyreans sort of get larger into their more battle forms. The guards draw weapons, and the 2 shadows sort of step up, and so they're standing on their chairs and looking around the room.
But the magic circle is intact so far?
The magic circle is still intact.
Okay. I have bad news. We're on the wrong map.
I know, you guys, there isn't a combat map for this, because this is going to be something else, but I did not remember to put the correct things over here. So 1 second.
Roll combat initiative for non-combat.
Sorry. This can become a combat. It's kind of depending on how you guys do it.
Apparently we did it this way.
Okay, so Sorelka, you see weapons being drawn, lots of confusion going on as several people's faces just sort of melt away.
Right, and so my plan, had we still been in the skill challenge, was to go over to the men that wanted, or creatures that wanted in through the doorway where the cat is, and I was going to bluff and say they're busy negotiating, and they would like you to pass the information to me, and I will pass it to them when they are available again. So now it's my understanding that those people that wanted into the room are part of the face melting group.
Yep.
Then when I see that, I mean, I'll ask the group in general. Just Sorelka would probably yell out, "Are we? Am I clear to attack?" Because this seems unexpected, and anything unexpected I think of as a threat. So does anybody object to me attacking those things?
Does it look like the other guards in the room are going to attack these things, right? Like they're combat ready?
You can tell that they draw weapons, but they look they very much hesitate to attack, as well, several of them seem to be, they know the people that are there. Like, for example, Lucas definitely knows who Nick is and is having a hard time drawing his weapon and attacking him.
I can put it another way. Can we hear from the fighting outside in the hallway that the knights are fighting?
Yes.
I'm fighting these guys.
Happening.
Okay.
I'm attacking these guys then. So I don't know how you would like me to do that, but
so it is entirely for the way that the skill challenges functions. A lot like the previous challenge, as you run through the hallways, you can use a at will or basic attack if you would like, or you can make a skill check to say how the fighting is going. Nothing in this area is of the same level as you guys, so it's nothing here is going to be enough of a threat to be worth going into combat with.
Right. My goal is to keep these creatures away from the circle, and I will employ dual strike in order to do that. So I will attack the closest two to the circle.
I was just wondering if Karen, like when he recognizes all these changes, I mean the mental changes over some of the guards, but then I guess the physical changes, could he maybe use his divine powers to try to determine if there's some sort of charm or fear effect happening here, or if like there's actually like a physical transformation overcoming these people?
You can definitely do that when you get to your turn, but the short answer is going to be it is a physical transformation.
Okay.
Since there is some confusion, I will strike non-lethally.
Okay. So you can see that there are 16 of the people that are around the room.
Can I assume I can get CA from Cunning Stalker, or no?
Yeah. Assume combat advantage.
26 and 38 versus AC.
The 26 will miss and the 38 will hit as you take out one of the faceless men. Ishtar, you're up. So again, for the purposes of the challenge, you can either make a basic attack or you can do a skill check, and depending on your skill check, it might knock out one or more people from the thing. Depending on your attacks, you might knock out one or more people from the challenge.
I'm gonna find the largest group of them that are clustered together, probably the guys at the door, and drop a day and night bomb on them with blazing starfall, just a blast of radiant energy.
Okay.
With those numbers.
So two of those will hit, and you see the men burn up.
Okay.
So the faceless men start to gather around the room. The faceless men start to spread around the room, jumping onto people. Several of the faceless men that were Shatterkai use their Shadow Jaunt to go down into the room and start attacking people. They seem to be primarily focusing on the other guards and on your group. So ideally this macro works, but again, haha, it does actually work. So there's going to be one attack on each person, and I'm going to go in, actually I'm going to put you guys in an order real quick to make my life easier. we could use the DM cheat sheet order, but you guys are all nice here on this map. So, Amber, you're first.
Yeah, the 29 is a hit.
So you're going with the order. You've arranged this on the screen
Yes.
rather than the sheet.
Yeah. Karen, you're next. Soroka, you're next. Akradar, Ishtar, and Ophelia. So you see some of them attack with weapons, but they seem very inept at attacking with the weapons. Other ones of them, they go directly to extending their arms to be these weird kind of ropey extensions, and they have little barbed hooks on the end that grab into you. If you get hit, you take damage, and you are now grabbed. Ophelia, you're up.
Wait, I was muted just now. No, how responsive do these guys seem to, say, sounds and whatever? Do they seem like they react quickly or not?
They seem to react like, well, people, but people with melted faces.
Yeah, but do they seem to think like people or something like that?
They seem a little
Can
bit
I
more
judge
mindless.
something like? Oh, if they
User
seem
was
a
moved
little
out
bit
of your
more
channel.
mindless, that's good. I'll probably yell out something like "cover your eyes," and since they seem to be deformed by shadow magic, that shadow magic should be probably inhibited by
User joined your
overpowering
channel.
light. So I'll
Okay.
just try to set off my bombs after yelling everyone to cover their eyes.
Okay.
And since it's for overpowering light, this is probably something like intimidate.
Sure, sounds good. Also, your intimidate check will make it to where the other people are more likely to react and cover their faces.
Hmm?
So, your ability to blind a couple of them, and Jermogan and a couple of his friends were very, very aware that this was going to be coming. They cover their faces when you say to take cover, and pounce on a couple of the faceless men and remove them while they are blinded.
And can I try to ungrab myself or something like that?
Yes, you may make an escape check.
That's hard DC, should work probably.
Yep, you are able to escape. Akradar, you're up.
All right. Again, what just happened, and I have to question real quick the ones that turn melt face was were the four in front of me or just two of them?
All four of the ones in front of you. So unmute yourself. So the Eladrin that came, the human, the Cormyrian Knight, and both of the Shatterkai changed.
All right, then I'm gonna try. Yeah, I'm gonna make a shift back with my tiger, like pulling back a bit, and then I'm gonna start talking to them like, what is your purpose here? What are you trying to do?
Okay. They don't seem to respond. They respond, but they respond by trying to attack you.
Okay, then I'm going to do this, just to be sure. I'll warn you only this once. Turn back, or you will be exterminated. Wrong one. Of course.
They don't seem to respond to you. Other than reaching forward to attack you.
Okay, then I'm gonna ready action because I don't want to fight if not provoked. So I'm gonna ready action Valiant Strike and just stay where I am. The one attacking unnecessary.
I was gonna say one of them has already attacked you, for the record.
Yeah, but they attacked because we attacked, so.
Okay, Karen, what are you doing?
Okay. Karen's looking around just from watching the Shadowkai, do they appear to be responding to this threat, or are they still kind of being a daze almost?
They seem like they're caught off guard, and you can tell that they are hesitating because the people that are attacking are people that they know. So they're having a hard time striking down people they know.
Okay. Karen says to Dramogan that something must be done. These creatures may not be your allies anymore. And Karen tries to instill willpower in them through divine might, using religion, just to try to help them make a decision.
Okay. So what do you say to them as to kind of snap them out of it?
I tell them that everyone is in danger here. Madame Dasani is in danger. Our people are in danger. Your fellow Shadowkai in danger. Whatever these creatures are, we don't know who they are. But what we can do is we can knock them out, restrain them, and then find answers later. But for now, we need to call to arms. We need to act.
Okay. So several of them sort of snap out of it. Notice that you're there, and let's see. Definitely agree with you. So one of the faceless men gets cut down as the guards are now paying more attention. Not paying more attention, but are able to act. Sort of steeled against the problems. Ember, you're up.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, I'm like 50 feet up with some of them.
25 feet up, yes.
Just 25. Okay. Have any of them jumped like down to the grand melee on the floor, or are they all just facing off on the different ledges and stuff?
One of them jumped towards you, but none of them have gone down towards the center yet.
Oh yeah, that's true. One of them is grabbing onto me. I'm assuming we can't use encounters here, so I'll just do a regular check to escape.
You could use an encounter power if you'd like, but keep in mind that encounter power will be used.
Yeah, so that's an easy escape.
Okay, so you do escape. Karen, did you make an escape attempt on your turn?
Is it am I able to do that in addition to the skill check? Is there
yes.
enough? Would you just like a strength or athletics?
Athletics check or acrobatics check in order to escape. Sorry,
yeah, I'll go ahead
and
and
interrupt your turn.
No problem.
That is a athletics check of 20. That means you do escape. So continue, Amber.
Yes. Well, what I want to do is well, I want to roll Intimidate, and I kind of want to use Dragon Fear as well to just make the faceless ones stand down, and or inspire the non-corrupted ones to get off their ass and fight.
Okay.
I will skip on the Dragon Fear and just do an Intimidate.
So you call out for them to fight on, and some of the soldiers are able to push through the problems, shake off their former allies, and strike down one of the faceless men.
Just what happened to the guy that was grabbing me? Since I was on one of the narrow ledges, and I mean he leapt at me, managed to grab me.
He sort of puts his hand on the wall and slides down the wall, scoring against the wall with some sort of glove that looks like it's designed to do that.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool, actually. Well, I think that's about all I can do for now.
So, at the end of the round, you can tell the Empyreans kind of form up. They face away, but seem to be kind of holding themselves back as Deskir is very clearly shouting instructions, although you can't hear him. As the Empyreans sort of spread around, you see one of the people in the shadows sort of twist in on themselves and vanish, along with her two guards. The other shadow, which you guys recognize as Madame Dasani, she kind of steps up onto the table and then takes off the cloak and presses it down around her. When she takes off the cloak, she looks like something you guys have not seen before. She looks kind of like a mixture between one of the noble Shi, like a high Eladrin, and a goblin. She's only about 3 feet tall. She's very sort of willowy looking, but her face is very broad. She's got sharp pointed teeth. She has long ears that look like they're also broad like a goblin's that stick out over her hair. And she's got her willowy is the description I like using. Sorry. And you have her hair is kind of braided and down over her shoulder, and is completely black. Her skin is very, very white and seems to reflect back a little bit of the light that gets shined on her, like it's almost crystalline. And she starts waving her hand side to side in this sort of rhythmic gesture. You don't hear anything, and you don't see any effect, but you can tell as her mouth's moving, she's doing something very particular, like probably based around a noise or a song. Soraka, you're up. Oh,
Sorry, I'm still trying to process what you just told us. So, and I still don't fully understand. What is she doing?
So inside the circle, Deskir
Yep.
and Iona step up behind their Empyreans and kind of hunker down behind their guards.
Right.
Eliana hasn't really done much of anything, and then one of the shades disappears. The other one takes off their cloak so you can see what's underneath the cloak, and then
Right,
she
and she
steps
looks like
onto
that.
the center of the table and starts making this motion, this kind of slow figure eight with her hand, while she's seems to be talking or singing. You can't hear anything because again the barrier's still up, but she's doing something facing out into the room.
Into the room. Okay. What is the expression on Deskir or Iona's or both's face? Are,
They look worried, but don't seem to react. Don't have any particular reaction to to Dasani speaking.
then I'm going to continue fighting faceless men. Dual strike. Boring. Looks like one hit, one miss again.
Yep.
Good damage on the miss, at least. So now there's a thing on my face. Are they sort of swarming over us?
Yeah, they're kind of swarming and around and trying to grab at people. They look like they're going primarily after the guards, trying to just inhibit you. They don't really look like they're actually trying to... Well, they are trying to hurt people, but they look like they're trying to pull people away from doorways or trying to grab hold of people and lock them down.
Okay, so I'm going to just pull my head back and then just let out a lightning-infused roar and just try and blast all these guys off of me.
Okay.
But it's going to be a check because I don't actually have a power that does that.
Sounds good to me. For the purposes of these types of challenge, if you use the same check multiple times, then you will take a small penalty.
Well, I haven't made a check so far this time, so...
That's fine. I'm making sure everyone knows what the rules are.
Yeah. My skill check rolls are not good.
I mean, pretty decent.
That's because I have an enormous bonus.
So, you knock a couple of them back. You see one of the faceless men, as he sort of staggers back, touches against the side of the barrier, and as soon as he does, you see the Empyrean sort of reach out and just crumple him. Like, the Empyrean reaches out a gauntleted hand through the barrier, grabs hold of him, and then crumples him like a tin can, and then chucks his corpse further away from the barrier.
That is acceptable.
The Empyrean did not seem to break the barrier when he crossed it. One of the other faceless men backs up into one of the Shatterkai guards, who guts him. So I still have enough faceless men to give everyone a single attack. So 23 versus Ember.
Miss.
17 versus Karen. Natural 1 against Arelka. 31 against Akradar. Natural 1 against Ishtar. And 24 versus Ophelia. So they are still coming in. You see, as they're doing this, trying to fight and move around, you hear cries coming from above. And when some of you guys look up, you see that one of them takes that sort of weird ambient purple light, one of the Shattercry does something with their hands, and then throws a bit of the light up into the air. And you can see it sort of fly upwards, spinning like a little... like a firework made of purple light, and then after it goes about 20 feet up into the air, you see it hit a ceiling that is just a mass of tentacles that are coming down the hallway that are filling the entire room. The mass looks like it's about 30 feet across, and the individual tentacles look like they're 50 or 60 feet long.
It doesn't look friendly, right?
Yeah. As soon as it happens, you see the one that actually threw the light up into the air just sort of stop and stare, stunned. Ophelia, you're up.
So the light
Would
revealed the
appear.
tentacles, it didn't create them.
No, it revealed that they are coming. And you can tell the way that he did it, he knew that they were already there. From his expression and everything. You know Shatterkai have dark vision, so he was clearly doing that as a symbol for everyone else to see.
Mhm. And do I have a feeling that the... How are these robots called again?
Empyreans.
Alright, do I have a feeling that one of the Empyreans will also crush me if I try to enter the circle?
Yes.
Even if I enter with, say, like a teleport so I don't touch it?
If you enter on the side where the Empyreans are, you're pretty certain that they're going to attack whatever's there. Although if you kind of make yourself known, you know that Deskir can command the Empyreans to do specific things. So basically, if you can make your presence known to Deskir and cross the barrier, you're not going to get hurt. However, crossing the barrier is likely going to break it.
Yeah, but teleport requires only line of sight. Will teleports break it?
I did not hear the part teleport. Yes, teleports will break some of these barriers, but not all of them. It is much less likely to break the barrier, although since you've seen the Shatterkai all have a teleport of their own as a racial ability, it probably is warded against teleports as well.
That makes sense. Then I want them to enter. There are several faceless men left, and there's a big thing above us. Is the current station correct?
Correct. The people who are in the circle do not seem to have noticed the light thing. None of them look up.
Well, it's not that good for them. The circle doesn't inhibit vision, right?
Nope.
I'll try to basically make very bright lights to draw their attention to the thing above, so they notice the huge tentacle monster above. Since making them know that we are being attacked by something more than the faceless man sounds important to me.
Okay.
Would that be intimidate to be very noticeable?
Sure. So you make a big flash of light and wave your hands up. When you do, you see the skier look up. Well, the skier kind of looks over towards you. Iona looks up, grabs hold of her father's arm, and kind of yanks down and points him up. They both look up and see the mass of tentacles. When they say something, both of the Empyreans kneel down, and you see their backplates shed aside as there's a compartment inside, and both Deskir and Iona step into the inside of the Empyreans. As that happens, you see the woman that's standing on the table looks up and then gestures over, and one of her guards takes a blade and breaks the circle around the central room. As soon as he does that, this incredible voice fills the room, as there is this really sickly sweet call that is telling you that everything is fine. There's no need to worry. Now, simple dears, just lie your heads down to sleep. You get the sensation as you hear the words very clearly and you feel the power that is within them, but you can also tell that you're not the target of it as the voice washes over the faceless men.
Also, it's targeting the faceless men, trying to calm them down?
Yes.
Or...
Those are some rules.
So 3 of the faceless men pass out. They're sort of like, not really pass out like they're, knocked out on their feet, but rather they just look like they don't care about fighting anymore and just lay down and curl up going to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them are
And
still
that's
active.
it for me?
That's it for you, yeah. Akradar, you're up.
All right, given that I'm grab, I'm gonna make a motion, athletics to get out of the grab.
Okay.
while I yank that arm out of whatever it's grabbing me, and I'm going to try Dragon's Breath on the three that are still left standing, non-lethally if possible.
Okay. So I would say that you can, because the way that I do for multi-targets in here, that you can definitely target two of them, which doesn't really make that big of a difference because it's two misses and a hit if you could target all three of them.
Yeah.
So you hit him with lightning, he convulses and falls to the ground.
Then I'm just going to rush in with my tiger as a charge and just valiant strike the other one of the ones that are left.
Okay. So that is a hit.
Yep.
Karen, you're up.
Okay. Karen is going to build up momentum and pretty much try to charge into one of the remaining faceless men. They're just going to bear down on him and try to pin him to the ground.
Okay. So you go to kind of hit against him, and when you connect with him, you feel like the body is not really made up of the correct pieces, as you expect when you kind of shoulder into someone and hit them in the chest that they're going to fall down. But instead, the inside of his body sort of moves around, like his rib cage and his bones really aren't properly attached and just rattle around on the inside as he absorbs the strength of the blow and flows around you. Ember, you're up next.
Alright, there's one faceless man left. Can I just charge it?
Sure.
Assume combat advantage, you say?
Yep.
Sorry, Roll20 is being really slow.
So that'll definitely hit and remove the last faceless man. So at the end of the round, as the last one kind of falls, you hear there's a lot of fighting going on around the outside. As the fighting, as the noise of the fighting kind of goes down a little bit, you see little bits of rocks that are falling from up above as the tendrils that are reaching down further towards you, this big mass of tentacles, is breaking apart the rocks. And you see little pebbles, little chips from the stones that are falling around, as well as some of the bigger pieces of stone from the ledges that are being ripped off and thrown down on the top. You hear the very kind of sickly sweet voice of Madame. Now, children, remember what I have told you. A proper warning for a proper price. She snaps her finger, and both her and her guards fold just like the other one did and vanish. You see Aliana take her hand, make a little symbol gesture with her hand, and then there's a popping sound, and you see blood start to flow from both of her ears as she runs to go stand between the two Empyreans, and the Empyreans approach you all. You hear the voice of Deskir kind of echo from the inside of his suit of armor, from the inside of the Empyrean, saying, "We need to make our way to the embassy. Quickly, get out as fast as we can." And starts sort of going thudding towards the hallway.
Did what the Madame say seem directed towards Deskir and Iona?
Actually, it looked like it was directed more towards Aliana than it was towards Deskir and Iona.
Oh, interesting.
But sort of towards all three of them. But the one that she said child to was Aliana.
And her ears just started bleeding?
Aliana did something. She made a symbol, and you heard a really loud popping sound.
Yeah.
And then both of her ears started bleeding. Aliana did that to herself, apparently.
Right.
All right. As soon as
So
she
she
got
wanted to avoid hearing.
Okay, as soon as I see that, I scream at Ariana to get on my tiger, seeing that she will likely not be able to keep up with all of us. And I tell everyone to just run out of this. Oh, true enough. So I'll just go at her, pull her up into the tiger, and just run with her.
So
So
if you
are
go to,
we out of initiative order, or what's going on?
there's going to be something in just 1 second. So as you go to kind of grab hold of Aliana, she sort of teleports next to them. You very much get the impression that she can do that as much as she wants. She does not look like she's going to have a hard time keeping up with you all. So
Surprised.
we're going to go to the second phase of this, where you guys are running towards the embassy.
I'm going to cover my ears with my fake ears, as I mentioned I created earlier.
So I do apologize. There is a lot more text to this normally. There's a backdrop and stuff, but it all got deleted. I had time to remake the tokens and pretty much nothing else before game today. So sorry, this is going to be a little bit bare bones. But right now we're going into what we just had was a storyline combat. This is now a skill challenge. As you guys are making your way toward the embassy, you're going to be going ideally along a similar route to get back towards the embassy. As you start running through the halls, you can make different choices. You can go different ways. But from where you guys are, the goal is to make it back to the mortal side of things as quickly as possible, with trying to keep ideally Iona, Deskir, and Aliana alive. And if possible, as you guys are leaving, if you see other people, the Shadowfell, citizenry, that sort of stuff, people who are not affected by whatever this thing is that is melting people's faces, if you can see one of them that is under attack, possibly help them as a secondary goal. So the first thing is to get out of the winding halls that are inside of the city hall. So there's fighting going on. There's Cormyrean soldiers that are fighting. They're fighting faceless men. You can see that there looks like there's about half soldiers, half faceless men, and there's Shadowkai that are corrupted. There are very few of the Cormyreans that are corrupted, but there are still some of them in the area, as the 4 people that you are escorting come with you and down the hallways. So the goal of the challenge again is to get out of the hallway safe and sound, and make it out into the streets for the first step. So Sarelka, you're up first. What are you doing to contribute to getting out of this place?
All right, well, first things first, I'm going to use my disguise kit ears that I created to deafen myself, and then following our Aliana's sample. And then I plan to clear the path. So I'm going to run ahead of the group, and if there are obstacles, I'm going to thwart them in whatever fashion they need to be thwarted. So to keep pace, I was thinking athletics.
Sure. And mainly there's just fighting in the hallways, and there's places that are tables and chairs and things that have been knocked over, that sort of thing.
All right.
So you can move things out of the way and continue moving quickly down the hallways. As you get further along, you can see there's more and more fighting going on. Ishtar, you're up.
Okay, so I would like to, as we run through, I'd like to yell at some of the guards and try and collect up as many of the Cormyreans and the untransformed people into our group as we go along. Try and get somebody to lead the way if we're not sure how to wind our way out of the complex. If there's one of the Shadowkai who's more familiar with it than our non-native people that are leading the way, and just sort of get everybody that we pass in action doing the best thing they can.
Wow, all 3 of the PCs the 2 PCs whose name, NPCs that you guys have talked to the most, are both alive and part of your party. So Jermogan and Lucas both follow you guys out.
Okay.
So basically, ask Lucas to lead the way, or Jermogan, one of the 2.
Yeah, I'll have one of them lead the way then as I gather the rest of the people.
So call to people and try to get them to lead the way. They start heading along. You start calling to groups of soldiers that finish off their things and don't really know what to do, as you start to gain an entourage of people following behind you. Ophelia, you're up.
My understanding is that right now we're going through basically hordes of those faceless people, correct?
You're going through a maze of hallways, and there's small combats that are breaking out all over the place. So You can do checks to try to find your way in the maze. You can try to convince Jermogan to tell Jermogan where you're going and convince him to lead you there. You can help fight through some of the pockets of resistance because there's groups of like 3, 4, 5 that are fighting. There's no like big hordes of people in the hallways.
Yeah, I would like to help fight through them. Would that be with an attack roll or with a skill check?
Either or. You can either do an attack roll or a skill check.
Red box of death.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Same
Ideally,
here.
I'll try to reload. Wait, I always see Benedict online whenever I get a box of death.
okay. So ideally, you guys should be back. Go ahead and click your button whenever you get back, Ophelia.
My macros don't work. I'll try reloading again. I simply don't see the macro bar. I mean, the connection
Do you want
bar.
me to roll for
So,
you?
yeah, my MBA.
So that will hit, and that will contribute towards the skill challenge. So you fight your way through another pocket of resistance. I've got to get my thing loaded back up again. And make your way out into the streets with people's help. So ideally, once you guys get back and all loaded up, you should see scene number 2. As you guys head out into the streets and see that there's people kind of gathered around, there's a lot of other people in the streets. You see one of the guards, one of the Shatterkai, is just staring up into the sky, up to the top of this huge building. And just several people on the street are just gathered around looking up at the building shocked. Jermogan does the same thing that he did inside of the room, where he makes a little ball of purple light and throws it up as it scatters around. And he says to you guys as you leave the building, "I'm not sure I'm doing you guys a favor by showing you this." And then shoots a little light up into the sky, and you see, as it's kind of flying up in the air, he goes, "But I think it's better to know than not to know." So you see that on top of the building that you guys are in. You guys hear me and see what's going on?
Yep.
Yes, may we make monster knowledge checks?
You can if you'd like.
I just want to know what it is.
It would be a dungeoneering check.
16. Oh,
It appears to be some kind of aberration.
okay, aberration, great.
I'll also try rolling the Virginia. That's not very successful.
You notice that is also some kind of aberration. So you can see that there's little tendrils that are going off to other buildings that are surrounding, and other sort of buildings are mutating in a similar way as tentacles are starting to reach out and try to block your path. Through all of the hallways, as you guys are running out of them, you can see more of those tendrils that are coming out of the hallway, grabbing for people. They seem to be hunting for you all specifically. So as you're going and entering the parts of the streets nearest to the city hall, you can tell that some of the buildings are alive and grabbing for you for the next part of the challenge. Ophelia, I think you're up next, correct? No, you were the last one.
I was up just now. Does Karen know a bit more about this thing?
So, what do you want to say to Deskir?
Wait, what?
You say, does Deskir know more about it? What do you want to ask?
No,
to
I said, does Karen Mentalsmith, does he know a bit more? since he rolled a 27.
You have no idea what the name of that thing is, but it seems to be an appendage. You can see up kind of at the edges of the purple light, there is what seems to be the edges of a large portal, and Jermogan will also kind of reaffirm that if you say something about it, that this seems to be a hand or an arm of something reaching out through a portal. So what you're seeing is not the creature, you're seeing the creature's arm.
So you're saying that whatever this is, it's just an arm.
Yep.
Okay, anyone can care to give me a good reason not to go running the other way?
I mean, everyone's reasoning is run the other way. They're trying to get away from this.
Good!
And it's your turn. So how are you contributing to getting away from things as the buildings seem to be coming alive and blocking your path? Oh crap.
That's Acridar's turn, right?
It is Acridar's turn. It's because of the initiative thing. I'll fix it, but Acridar, it's your turn.
What the hell can I even do?
Well, the goal is to make your way through the streets. You're trying to get back to... Uncue your mic. You're trying to get back to the mortal side of things. So you've got a city that's laid out before you. The area directly around City Hall is being corrupted and changed, and their buildings are coming alive and trying to grab you. The goal is to get through that section to make it out of there to get to the part of the Shadowfell city, and then once you get to the Urmlaspyr that's in the Shadowfell, to make it to the mortal world in some way. So whatever you think would help to get you guys through this area of the Shadowfell and get away from these buildings as they're trying to attack you.
All right then. Well, not much to it because I don't have any ability that could help us. So I'm just gonna do an athletics check to tell my tiger to run the hell as fast as he can. Maybe grab someone with his teeth and keep running. Anyone want to be carried?
Ideally, you guys should all see initiative order in the right order now.
I see only zeros.
Good. I mean, it's in the correct order, though. That's the important part.
Oh yeah, fair enough.
So, you start moving through. You can see more of the tentacles are kind of reaching out to grab different people. Karen, you're up.
Okay. Karen noticed what Aliana did earlier to her own ears, and he was wondering if there's like a, I guess like a mental, if it's like an actual physical sound, or if it's like also kind of in the mind that's coming or emanating from this creature coming from the portal.
You don't hear any sound other than kind of the groaning of the structure under the great weight of this creature and the bits and pieces of stone that are falling to the ground, as well as the screams of the people in the city. If she is protecting herself from something with sound, there's no sound out here that sounds anything close to like the siren's call that you heard when you were inside of the building. So you don't know what she's protecting from because there's nothing here that seems to be a threat.
Okay.
There's nothing here that's a threat by sound.
Does when Karen saw Aliana do that, like, would he believe that she's trying to protect herself from probably Madame Dasani or maybe something else?
Well, Madame Dasani was the one that suggested she do it. So,
okay.
Probably not her, but likely something similar.
Okay. While everyone's running, Karen's going to say a prayer to try to help bolster everyone's defenses. He's going to say a prayer to monitor. He's going to be repeating. He's just going to say it in his own mind and a whisper. The sun doth shine, this light is thine. The sun doth shine, this light is thine. He's going to repeat it over and over.
As you're doing it, the old knight, the Cormyrean knight that's still with you guys, takes up the thing and starts repeating the same prayer, holding onto his holy symbol.
and he's whispering, but he's also Kieran's kind of shouting it in his mind, and he's trying to use divine power to enforce the will of those around him, to make sure that they're protected from any mental attacks, but also to help them reach their goal with surety.
Okay. All right, that will be a success. So you send this little wave out, and as you do, oh man, I need to note who is the top of initiative. Who was the top of initiative? I think it was Soroka. Ember, you're up next. So you guys are about halfway
That's
through.
correct.
You guys are about halfway through the section of living buildings that are reaching out to grab people.
Okay, I'm going to just basically stay near the dudes in the Empyreans. Are they keeping up well, or are they faster than most in their super suits?
The Empyreans, as they move along, they seem to be moving at an unhurried pace and keeping up with you.
Okay, that's good. In that case, I'm just going to. I mean, I'm going to do my job and protect them. That's the primary goal. If any tentacles reach out anywhere in the vicinity, I'm going to smack it.
Okay.
So if you want me to roll something, I'm just going to roll a charge attack on the nearest tentacle that appears within like 5 squares of us.
Sounds good. An attack does work for the skill challenge.
Wow.
So no. So you
Not
kind of
good.
charge out, and then you see one of you go to charge towards a building, and you see one of the rows of cobblestones sort of flow up underneath you and smash into you as you go to fly above it, and it causes you to fall down onto the ground and lose a healing surge. So at the top of the round, the walls sort of bulge as you see large pieces dislodge and start throwing themselves around the area, and you feel like you're inside of maybe like a popcorn tin, as there's big pieces of stone like pieces of popcorn that are exploding off of the street and of the walls, raining down on people. Now for this part of the challenge, it is going to get an attack roll against everyone in the party, and then it's going to get an attack roll against each of the people that you are trying to protect. Now, any person in the group may attempt to protect someone that's there. If you protect one of the people that you're guarding, you will automatically take that person's attack, and then that will be you can protect one person per round. So, for starters,
Wait, does that attack automatically hit if I protect?
yes, if you protect someone, it will automatically hit you.
Oh.
Let me make sure that I have this properly done for the AL, because again, no macros. Nope, I had it wrong. So again, in the order that you guys are on the screen, so Ember, Karen, Sorelka, Akradar, Ishtar, Ophelia. All of this is against AC, as big hunks of stone start flying around in the interior.
I'm the 32. That's a hit.
Good thing the crit didn't do anything, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
Jesus.
The damage is untyped, correct?
Damage is untyped. It's stone-flavored damage.
Well, I'm bloodied.
Fancy.
Oh, everyone is bloodied. Okay.
We better be, considering
So,
that is like a truck.
Did I miss something? Why is 26 bloodying people?
because they took damage from that earlier part.
Oh,
So, those are the four people that you guys are protecting. The Deskir and Iona, who are inside the suits, and then the Old Knight and Aliana. Does anyone wish to take an attack for any of them?
I will.
Who are you taking an attack for?
I'll
will.
take it. I'll take an attack. Well, why don't we just go in initiative order?
Yeah.
I'll take an attack for Iona.
Okay. It will not be the same damage roll, no. So you take 14 damage for the attack for Iona?
All right. I can only take one.
You can only take one.
Okay.
Ishtar, do you take an attack for someone?
No,
Ophelia, do you take an attack for somebody?
No.
Akradar?
Yeah, I do.
For who?
Oh, what's his name? One of the ones that are guiding us. I forgot the names.
They're not the ones you're protecting, so you don't have to protect them.
Oh, then
It's
I'll
just
take
those
one.
four.
Repeat that. Sorry.
It's just the four that I listed. So it's just Askir, Iona, the Knight, and Eliana.
Then I'll take one for Iona.
I just did.
Oh, I thought I said Aliana. Then I'll take it for Aliana.
Okay, 15 points of damage to you. Karen.
Okay. Yeah, Karen will go ahead and take. Anybody else gonna take a hit? Because I could take a hit for one person, and maybe one person can take a hit for the remaining fourth NPC.
Yeah, Eliana and Knight are secondary objectives. I'm not saying that you shouldn't protect them. I'm just saying keep that in mind. Your primary goal is to get the ambassador and his daughter out safe.
Like it says in the handout, primary goal: get the ambassador out safe.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll take a hit for Deskir, and if anybody wants to take a hit for the knight, or vice versa,
So
then
Deskir
I can deal one later on.
Oh, that's right. Deskir's not had the hit take. So yeah, sure. So go ahead and 14 to you. And Ember, last but not least.
I will not take a hit for the knight.
Okay. So the knight gets pummeled down and is now bloodied. And Sorelka, you're up as you guys are getting towards the edge of this area where the buildings are alive.
Right. And so there are citizens that need to be protected as well. Is that correct?
So in this section, the only quote-unquote citizenry is the four that you're protecting. There will be more as you continue on the challenge.
And what is the form of the attacks that we're taking? Are these like tentacles are lashing out at us from this thing?
It's actually the tentacles are going into the buildings and ripping them apart, and then picking up big pieces of stone and throwing the stones at you guys.
Hurling it. Okay. As to what to do now. Other than I'll continue to do what I did. I guess I'll just continue to make sure we have a run ahead of everyone and make sure we have a clear pathway to make sure we don't get stuck. Acceptable.
Okay.
Are there any portals we're going to have to go through that might be locked? Anything along those lines?
You guys are in through streets, but when you get to the gates that set, well, if you go through that way, if you go through the way that you guys came, go through the gates of the city between the Shadowfell and the Mortal World, there will be locks and things in place there.
Well, then I'm going to do what I'll do is I doubt the guards have held their posts to let us out, so I'm going to apply thievery to that in order to make sure we can get through those blocking.
Okay. So you nimbly make sure that you are able to stay ahead, and if there's any sort of obstruction up ahead, a gate, a door, anything like that, you move it out of the way as the world around you keeps being ripped apart as big stones keep moving out of the way. You see a tiny little gate that would not be a problem otherwise, but it would take a moment to kind of stop and then push open, and you grab hold of it with one of your lower arms and rip it open so that everyone else can run through without being hindered. You guys make it out of that section into an area of the into a section of streets that don't seem to be being ripped apart by buildings. But as you sort of go into the area yourself, those of you guys that are not deafened hear this very sickly sweet song as two women, or a group of women's voices, like a chorus, 5 or 6 different voices, is calling out to you as you slide into this open square with the statues of what looks to be two draconic figures. And several faceless men come in from the sides, gathering around you, blocking your way. So I'm going to move you guys to a new map. Oh, that did not work even a little bit. Also, that color is really annoying, so I'll change that in a second. So as you guys entered in the square, the creatures come from the sides to engage you. Let me make a starting party box real quick.
Oh, we're in real combat now. Sad.
So that is a starting party box.
Are these statues difficult terrain or blocking?
The statues are blocking terrain, as are all of the buildings.
Okay.
Where are the NPCs in all this? Are they behind us in safety?
1 second. Let me change these colors because it's hurting my eyes.
What colors?
He must be able to see auras we can't see.
Oh.
Exactly.
Aura of frost.
After you've placed yourself, you guys are aware of an aura. The NPCs, Aliana grabs, Iona's Empyrean grabs hold of Aliana, and Deskir's Empyrean grabs hold of the Knight, and they pick them up and launch themselves onto the buildings. As they land on top of 2 of the bigger buildings and start, and when they place them down, the Empyreans pause for a second, blasting away creatures that are attacking from the air. So you guys are in charge of dealing with the stuff that's at ground level, and the Empyreans are dealing with things that are flying from the air down at you guys. So they're there, they're just not involved in this particular combat. They're doing something else.
Okay, so there's no need to protect them.
Correct.
Excellent, then we can go nuts.
So, as you come in, you see several of the 3 of the faceless men kind of coming down from the sideways, from the alleyways on the side. You see one creature that looks like it's a amalgamation of, looks to be shadow plates that kind of exude that same sort of mist that you saw in the water as you guys got here previously. And then you see 2 big blobs of flesh and that are covered in what looks to be seaweed, with women's faces on little tendrils reaching out the top that are calling in a chorus of soothing voices. So now combat initiative, please.
Of course I crit on my initiative.
So, because we've been going pretty hard and heavy, and because I need a minute to prepare this and get my notes prepared, well, I mean, not really prepared, but I need to read through my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Go ahead and after you guys roll initiative, take a 5-minute break, and we will start back at 45.
Can you click the aura for us too?
You should be able to see it now.
No, but I mean like what it does.
Oh, I don't have the macro, so I'll type it in.
Oh, right. Never mind then. Forget it. Forgot macros.